Welcome to my humble abode. How are you doing on this mundane day? Good, I hope. You ever notice how the Energizer Bunny is kind of a baddie? Today's story takes place, I want to say, around the summer of 2017. Me and my boy Chunk left our houses and met halfway in between each other's houses, like we always did, and dapped each other up. Homie stuff. He told me he had something crazy to show me. That got me kind of interested because maybe he had a bowl we could smoke out of instead of us having to use a nasty ass tin can. So intrigued, I huddled around him all sketchy like and asked him what it was. That's when he whips out a joint. And this wasn't an ordinary joint. I noticed right away that there was no green on the inside. This was straight purple, like if you dunked your leafy greens into the purple slime from the Cat in the Hat live action movie. Knowing that wasn't weed, I immediately opted out of smoking it, but was very intrigued by it nonetheless. After I got done eye fucking it, I asked him what it was. He smiled and he says, "Tune." He further explains it's this chemical that makes you hallucinate. Pretty much, he explained it like if it was weed, but with visuals. I don't know if he did it before this day, or if he was just told what it was like smoking it. Who knows? Maybe he did this with his brother, the same who helped me get into poking Smot, because, this guy comes back in this story. I told him I wasn't gonna smoke that because, it's mystery chemical, and we need to get some actual sticky icky to smoke. Our grass well was completely dried, so it was our sworn mission to find some devil's cabbage at any cost, no matter what. Then our only plug said he was totally out himself and was gonna re-up tomorrow. Broken and defeated, we just walked around the neighborhood for a while, just talking and just very bummed we couldn't indulge in any sticky icky activities. We made it to the wooded area around our neighborhood, the same spot where I poked Smot for the first time. Well, second time, technically, but you get what I'm saying. Link in the video in the description. And that's when Chunk shrugged his shoulders and said fuck it. He decided if he couldn't inhale our usual flame, then I guess it wouldn't hurt to spice it up a bit. I told him that I was good, and I preferred not to try the mystery chemical. Either way, we turned and walked right into the woods. We go just far enough so nobody can hear us talk, and he takes it out of a little box. He's got the mystery joint in one hand, a lighter in the other hand, and right before he's about to spark it, he looks at me and asks one last time if I'm sure if I don't want to hit it. Now, I snitched on Chunk for peer pressuring me just a tad in my poke and Smot for the first time video, but it was the exact opposite here. He asked one time and then asked me 10 minutes later right before he was about to hit it, and then after I confirmed, he just shrugged his shoulders and said, "Okay." That's why Chunk is my best friend. He always wanted to make sure I was alright, and besides poking Smot, because, it's not that dangerous. If you're gonna sit here and tell me, oh, it's a gateway drug and all this bullshit without actually doing any research, I'm just gonna say that you're politically brain rot by that Ronald Reagan brain rot. I'm sorry. But anyway, he was always trying to look out for my health and everything, and he would never peer pressure me into doing anything crazy, because, he didn't really do anything, extremely crazy like that either. So, it's good, and he's my best friend for that. I know this whole video is about you, Chunk, but I just want to say shout out to you again, because you really are my best friend, buddy. As he started to take his first rip, and then, kept going, hitting it, started doing smoke tricks, I started to get a little jealous. My mind was saying something like, gosh, I just want to light up with him, but we don't have any kush. I want to try acid, so it's just the same, right? They're both just mystery chemicals, make you see stuff. Like, back then, I thought acid was just like weed, but you see some pretty colors. Oh, how naive I was back then. I was like 15, 16 at the time for point of reference, and just getting into the whole like drug knowledgeable thing, getting knowledgeable into drugs. So, yeah. After going back and forth in my mind, I decided, fuck it. What's the worst that can happen? Famous last words, I'm sure. And I sat back and looked up at Chunk, and I told him I changed my mind. I wanted a hit of the mystery chemical. He kind of smiled. I think it's just because he didn't want to do it fully alone, and no, it wasn't anything malicious. He was just, happy he didn't have to smoke it alone. And right before I take a hit, he told me to hold it in as long as I can, like you would for poking Smot. And if I get any of the liquid on my tongue, then to spit it out because if it too much of it got on my tongue, or if it was on for too long, then it could potentially give me a seizure. That scared the absolute hell out of me for good reason. Well, look what I was doing. Gosh, I was so dumb. But scared as I may be, and was, I still took the hit. I'm not 100% sure what he meant by liquid because it's not like the joint was dripping or soaked in liquid. I guess it's like, sucking on it could get some of the chemical on your tongue, just like if you were to suck on a sucker, you get some of that artificial flavoring on your tongue. Who knows? I personally didn't feel the liquid, and I took a baby hit, so either way. I was scared after he said that, obviously, and I spit, I spit like 5 or 6 times after I took the hit, just to be sure. And after a minute, he was about done. We went out of the woods, and unlike the first time poking Smot, I didn't really feel it as soon as I left the woods. I'm pretty sure it kicked in for Chunk because he had already been smoking it for a minute now, but it kicked in about 5 minutes after leaving the woods. When it did eventually kick in, I felt like if I had just smoked pot, but I also had all the energy and happiness in the world. Weed can make you feel all hippie like, the whole peace and love, feel super happy. But it was like that, but on steroids. My dog could have got ran over, and it wouldn't have made me any less happy. We walked around talking a whole awful lot, but saying nothing, just laughing and having fun. We stopped at my house to grab waters, and started yapping my younger brother's ears off. I'm sorry you had to go through that, bro. We were tripping on mystery liquid. We eventually left and just continued being yapologists as we walked around. That was pretty much the end of day one. Day two gets a little crazier. Chunk comes over and with his brother, and the plug hits us up and says that he'll be getting the sticky icky after a while. So in his terms, that means a few hours. I say a few hours because if you saw my confronting the plug story, I explained that this plug was so infamous for saying he'd be there in 20 minutes. 2 hours go by, we hit him up, bro, where you at? And after another hour of ghosting us, he'd say, oh, I'll be in 15 minutes now, with some shitty have-to-make excuse. Then it would take an hour or two. We did this whole sing and dance every single time we bought from him, no matter how much we bought. It was like this. His ass would take longer than a printer to print out a picture of your mom. Like, this plug was Mr. Last Resort, and unfortunately, he was my only plug at the time, so I just had to deal with it, I guess. So we had a lot of time to kill, so what better way to kill some time than to smoke? Smoke what, you ask? Because, we're out, we're waiting for Mr. Last Resort to supply us up. I think you know where this is going. Because the day before I had a pretty good high, I had no objections, and I was down to smoke. Like I said, it genuinely felt like wacky tobacco with a dash of overwhelming happiness, and so much energy I could probably run a mile or two without stopping. It sounds like I'm exaggerating, but I had so much energy, it at least felt like I could run a mile or two straight without stopping. We huddled around the side of my house and started to smoke a fresh new mystery joint. How lovely. Oh yeah, I probably should have said this before, but the taste of this thing, of these joints, they were the same day one and day two. And they tasted very bitter, but not like I sucked onto a lemon bitter, more like I drank some medicine that I didn't really think tasted great, just a little I saw Chunk doing smoke tricks and his brother was doing ghost inhales, being badasses, being very, you know, cool to young impressionable as myself. And I didn't want to look like a bitch, and like I said, I had a good ass time last time, so I decided, fuck it, I'll take more than a baby hit. And I ripped it. I ripped this hoe. I ripped it for like a solid 7 seconds and held it in until I started coughing. It was quite a while, I assure you. It wasn't like 3 seconds or anything. No, genuinely, it was like I probably held it in for probably like another 6, 7 seconds before I started coughing hysterically. And I think I took another big hit right after when it came back to me, but by the time I was exhaling the second giant hit, everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. And not to mention the high that came with it. Ooh, I got smacked with a brick with that one. My body felt like one of those tube men that dance around outside of car dealerships and stuff. That literally felt like, well, that's what my body felt like it was doing without me actually like physically doing it. So in this is where it gets crazy. It was a little hard to walk straight because of that, because my body felt like it was moving side to side when it really wasn't. So it was almost like I was drunk, except, I wasn't drunk. And we were walking around the neighborhood, just they were yakking it up, having fun, having a blast, good trip. And this was the first ever time I've ever tripped out on anything. So I didn't know what to expect, and since it was obviously not just, weed, but see funny visual or whatever, it freaked me the flip out. Yeah, sorry, I'm trying not to cuss so much, but at the same time, fuck you. Anyway, I was completely dumbfounded and scared out of my mind. But I was also trapped in my mind. I was staring at the ground, just thinking.
To top it all off, my eyes were going haywire. To show you what I mean by that, without exaggeration, this was my POV through my own eyes. Imagine trying to walk straight when your eyes are doing this without your control and your body feels like a tube man and you drank 50 beers in one sitting. It's not easy to walk straight now, is it?
It felt like we walked around for over an hour, and my anxiety was getting to me very bad. So, without saying a word, as we walked in front of my house, I quickly turned and started to head to the front door. The only thing that I was thinking in my brain was, I need to get home. This is too much. I need to lay down now. I'm staring at my feet as I walk to my house, and as I step on the first step out of 3 going to my door, I tripped going up, but thankfully caught myself. That's when all of a sudden I realized me and the boys were on the complete opposite side of the neighborhood from where my house is. They were still yapping, having fun, and I was just staring at the street the whole entire time as we were walking. That whole thing with me turning from them, walking up to my house, and tripping on the doorstep was all in my head. What made me trip was actually myself. I physically saw through my eyes that I was walking up to my doorstep and that I tripped over the step. But I was essentially dragging my feet as I was walking because of how hard I was tripping. Like I said, I felt like I was drunk. So I was essentially just dragging my feet. And since, I've never actually physically experienced anything like trippy like that and of how intense that was, it put me through so much stress. I immediately had a panic attack on the spot. And, when we actually walked to my house, for real this time, I told them I was tripping too hard and I needed to go lay down. Remember when I said we were waiting on the plug? Well, I was pitching in $20 and so was Chunk. Our plug sold $10 per gram of the sticky icky, so we were gonna have a party with 4Gs. This is gonna sound weird, but 4 to 5 Gs was actually a lot for me back in the day. I was working at a bowling alley making roughly 100. What? I just. My alarm just went. Oh, yeah! Oh, I gotta time out, guys. Hold on. My Bosco sticks just got done. I need to go grab those out of the air fryer. So, David, you go ahead and entertain the fans while I go be right back. I need to go get my Bosco sticks. Hold on a second. So, guys, how was David? Did he entertain you guys while I was gone? I hope so. You better have, David. You better have. Anyway, as I was saying, I was working at a bowling alley making roughly $100 every 2 weeks, and my tolerance was styrofoam. Combine those, seeing more than 1 to 2 Gs was crazy, and it lasted me quite a bit because it would fuck me up really good. So after telling them I was gonna go, Chunk asked about my half of the money for the plug. Originally, I said keep it, just because I was I was freaking out, and I just wanted to go home as soon as possible. And they didn't hear me, and actually asked me, huh, what'd you say? And I actually thought for a second, and changed my mind, and just said, I'll buy some another day. Chunk was very bummed out because now they was gonna have less, to smoke, and I wasn't gonna be there to have fun with them. Obviously, he was way more concerned about me wanting to make sure I was okay, and he encouraged me to go home and lay down after he saw how bad I was freaking out. But yeah, I sadly kind of ruined his day because of how hard I was tripping. I know if I apologize now, I told him that I still feel bad about ruining his night, his ass would just be happy I'm okay and definitely wouldn't get tossed up about it. Hell, he probably wouldn't. He probably wouldn't even remember that part. Just the part that I was tripping. He probably would just be like, "Yeah, dude, you're cool," because he's my best friend. As I pretty much keep telling you, he's my best friend, but I just cannot elaborate enough how amazing of a guy Chunk is. This dude is a legend, and I'll say it to this day, Chunk, you are a legend. Now, with me bailing out of having a fun time with the boys, there was only one mission left before I was in the clear. So, I pretty much explained how I was essentially the maid of my house in the first time poking Smot video, having to clean up pretty much the entire house by myself, from the living room to the kitchen to my fucking egg donor's room. Every fucking day, sometimes multiple times a day, I'd have to clean that hoe's room. She always used to call me up and, call me a disgusting maggot and all this and that, but realistically, she lived the filthiest out of all of us in this house. So I guess you could call that projection. Sorry, I didn't mean to dig a bit deeper on the sad reject lore. Anyway, the last mission of the day, of the night, or however you want to call it, was to get past my dad, who loved to make jabs at me for smoking the devil's lettuce. I kid you not, this dude he never outright directly said that he knew I smoked, but he made sure that I knew by shooting jabs at me one of my favorite ones was I'd come in, reeking up or smelling strong like cologne, actual like cologne. And this motherfucker, he would look at me with a smirk on his face and he'd go, "Hey, do you know where the Febreze went?" Or there was this one time we were at the store and he was buying candles, which he never bought candles, and it confused me. So I was just like, why are we buying candles? Looks me in the face, dead in the eyes, with a straight face, the straight dad face, and he just goes, "To get the smell of weed out of my house." Yeah, he wasn't very subtle about it, but yeah, he liked to make jabs at me. And, if he did that with the devil's lettuce, imagine what his mind would be if he found out I was tripping on some mystery chemical. He would not have been a happy customer. I mean, if my son was tripping on mystery chemicals, let me tell you, he ain't going to be playing his Fortnite anytime soon. Not a single time could I get past my dad without him knowing that I smoked because, clearly I couldn't hide it well at all. And since I couldn't hide that, that freaked me out even more. If I couldn't hide me smoking the devil's lettuce, how on fucking earth am I going to hide me tripping out on this chemical, one that's making me freak out and I can't even keep my own composure? Well, I guess God decided to bless me because when I walked inside, my dad was zonked out on the couch. I'm saying catching all the Z's this guy was doing. That relief I felt was so, so sweet. It probably could have killed the diabetic. And so I quickly make my way to my room in the basement, quietly, of course, but I was pretty much almost sprinting. Oh yeah, I completely forgot this part. So right next to Chunk, as my best friends, I have two other friends just as close to me, and they are Xbox friends. One lives a few states away, and the other is in another country. I've known them for years, one of them since day one of 2013, and the other since February of 2014. Safe to say, these weren't just Xbox friends, or aren't just Xbox friends. They are my family, and I love you guys. Shout out to you both. And here's a link to one of their channels. She makes Nightcore, so if you're into that, definitely stop on over there and tell her I said hi. And subscribe to her. And me as well. There were plenty of times where me and them would play, then Chunk would hit me up to hang out or go smoke, and I'd tell them I'd be back eventually. I'd leave my Xbox on, stay in the Xbox party, and every time they'd still be there when I returned. This time was no different. I came back, turned on my controller, and put my mic on. Before I said a word, the friend whose channel I linked, Nova, was like, "Oh, you're back." I'm in a panic, trying my best to calm down, and I calmly tell her, at least as calm as I can, "I'm tripping too hard." That's all I said for a while, and she was an absolute legend because the whole time I was panicking on the mic, she talked to me. She told me everything's gonna be alright. She helped me not to freak out as much and to get my mind off it. She sat there and rode the rest of the trip out with me, and that's why she's a fucking legend. And because she's just an amazing person overall. Shout out to you for being not just a great friend, but an amazing one. I'm truly grateful that you sat there and helped me through that trip. It was a scary time in my life, especially back then, and you know, I'm truly thankful that you were there to help me. So thank you, Nova. I truly, truly appreciate it. The trip, I want to say, lasted a total of like 30 to 40 minutes from start to finish. Most of the time, I was tripping in my head, freaking out, just wanting it to end. But I have great friends who are there for me, and I love them to death. The rest of the day, I just played Xbox with my homies. I think me and Chunk got some yummy greens the next day with my 20 because they smoked all the rest of their shit they got yesterday, and I missed out on it. So that was the time I tripped out way too hard on some mystery chemical and I smoked with my friend. Chunk told me that the mystery chemical was called Tune, And I've had a few people tell me, yeah, that's what tune is, but I'm not totally sure, to be honest. That's why I didn't say that I tripped out on tune in the title, just because I didn't want it to come off as clickbait, just because, I'm not extremely knowledgeable with it. That's the one and only time I've ever been around it. So I'm just gonna chalk it up to mystery chemical, because, I mean, it essentially that's what it was. That he told me it was tune, maybe it was tune, I don't know. I'm just gonna be safe, and I don't want to clickbait, so I tripped on mystery chemical with my best buddy when I when I was a teenager. Oh man. I don't really have much to say with my actions. I was just a quirky kid trying to have fun, I guess. I never did anything crazy like acid, so I don't have anything to like cross reference it to. I've done shrooms twice, but both times I didn't have any visuals. It just pretty much just felt like I smoked the wacky tobacco both times. The second, no, it was the first time I did it. First time I did it, I had a shroom infused sucker from a gas station, and I remember having only one visual, just one. I was staring at the ceiling. You know the ceiling titties? I'll flash one on screen. Um, I was staring straight at one of those right above me, and it slowly moved down and got closer and closer to my face. It got about 4 to 5 inches, I'd say, and then it slowly returned back to its place. It just sucks because that was the only visual I had. I went into shrooms being like, oh yeah, I want to see crazy things and all this and that, which, you know, mind you, it should never be the reason why you go into any, psychedelic or anything. You shouldn't just go into it being all, yeah, I'm going to see some crazy stuff, because, it actually has like its own high to it and everything. And if you do too much, you're going to have a bad time, and you'll find out the hard way that it's not just feeling like weed and see pretty visuals or whatever the hell. I'm not trying to scare you away and say that they're always bad and everything, but you gotta determine and think about that this stuff has its own high, and it's not everything is gonna feel like weed. Just because the sticky icky feels this way doesn't mean this is gonna feel the same way. To me, it felt extremely similar, if not almost 1 to 1, but it's not going to be the same with everybody. So if you're going to do shrooms and stuff, definitely, like, be careful with it, and make sure that you have somebody with you that can help trip sit you so you don't have a bad time. Or if you're having a bad time, you can, have him or her comfort you. Uh, This was one of the stories I was very hesitant to tell, just because I don't want to look like a dingus smoking this shit, but it was a very funny and memorable story, so I know I had to tell it at some point. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button harder than my kids, and share it with another rat hanging in the gutter with you. Without anything else to say, get the fuck out of my cellar. Hoe Ass.